All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Run! Go! This is the podcast!
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a podcast?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and podcast. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey everyone, welcome to Get to the Podcast. That's Get to the Podcast with the number 2. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
And I'm Neil Carson.
And as we get older,
You're whispering. Nobody's going to be able to hear you. Speak up!
I'm trying to...
Use your inside voice. Wait, no, hold on. Use your outside voice. Don't use your inside voice.
That was my
Use
inside.
your outside voice.
Yeah, because that was my inside voice.
No, you were like...
Yes. It was the moment
Sounds
that
like
I was
church
trying
mice.
He ruined the moment.
I didn't...
There was a moment.
There was a moment.
You
There was a
think that
moment.
people are going to be able to hear that, and nobody's going to be able to hear that in the real world.
So there's a volume button that I have my hand on, and I was turning it up.
I
as
have to
was
turn your
speaking.
volume up in editing, and then it takes all the room noise, puts it in, and then it's like me and Neil are like, hey, da-da-da-da. And he's like, hey, da-da-da. And yours is like, hey, da-da-da. So...
Sounds like a bad editor.
That's funny.
All right. So today we're gonna talk about does our list.
I knew
of
you were going to
films-
fuck up this title. I knew you were going to
I
fuck
didn't
up
even
this title.
fucking finish.
You're not going to
Did
finish
I
it
even
properly.
finish?
You've already
Did-
fucked it
Did
up.
I even finish?
You didn't even
he
start
didn't
it
finish,
properly.
he didn't finish.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't-
Go ahead. Do it. Do your thing. Do your thing, girl. You do you, boo. You do you.
I was trying to do me.
You do you.
All right, first of all, nobody do themselves. Second of all, you were saying.
I'm just like,
Continue. Do your thing, Diego.
you know, let me. I just want to confront this right now.
Here we go.
Is just let me finish my statement. You can correct it afterwards. It's perfectly fine. But give it the opportunity.
I should let you hit the brick wall, not try to prevent you from hitting
No,
that
allow
brick
me
wall.
to get to the brick wall and see if I see it.
That makes no sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Allow me to get to the brick wall. If you're doing
Let me
if you're doing 80 towards the
Don't
brick
stop
wall,
me
it
before
doesn't
I
matter
make
if
2
you
left
see it at the
turns
end.
to know that there's a dead end street. Don't stop me before I make my 2 left
Wait,
turns
so-
and know that
I'm
it's
sorry,
a dead
what?
end street.
No.
So what are we discussing?
Can you say your thing,
today?
man?
We're discussing him being a dick.
Wow.
So does our love of film? Well, now I'm fucked up because
it's fine, it's fine,
You know,
you're good, you're good.
I'm
No,
in
I
the
know
wrong
I'm
here.
good.
I'm in the wrong here.
No,
Do
it's
your
not
thing.
about. It's not about
I'm in
wrongs.
the
You
wrong.
just cut me off.
I'm in the
guy.
wrong. Do your thing.
This
and I was in my moments.
This guy.
you
Okay,
know,
I'll
and now-
shut up. I agree. I
Yeah,
was
that's
wrong.
never gonna happen.
I keep trying to admit fault here, and he won't accept it. I'm
No.
like, I was wrong.
Because
Do
it's
your
not a
thing.
fault thing. It
I
was
was
just you came in.
Do your thing.
Do a thing. All right, Nick. What are we talking about?
Oh, come on.
Fucker.
Do movies.
What?
Shit, I fucked it up. See,
that's
we
a
both
perfect
messed up.
title. That's a perfect title.
I know.
We're
seriously,
like
you
halfway
can start
into
it.
this.
I'll let you,
Is this a
40
visual
minutes in.
podcast?
All right, you do it. You do it.
So what we're doing is we're talking about films that are on our list that
Yeah.
might change as we get older.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Is that good enough for you?
Yeah, that's fine. So, like,
Okay.
does our taste in movies change as we get older? Because we were talking about this subject of, you think that my list doesn't really change. I might add to it, but I pretty much stay loyal to the things I've always loved.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I need to think about it further now. And I think while we talk about that, I'll get a better insight into my own taste in film and the
Yeah.
way that I react to films and my own sentimentality, because I don't really know until we start talking about it.
I mean, it is interesting. Like when I look back, like when I was growing up, like I didn't like drama. I didn't like, when Schindler's List came out, did not like that
Right.
movie. Just because I didn't like.
You were like 12 years old.
Yeah, I didn't like that the content of the movie.
You had
Not
to
that I
think
didn't-
more. You had to
Yeah.
think.
It was like
an adult subject, really. And
Yeah.
not just action.
But like
violence.
even like heavy dramas that are just about like relationships and all that kind of stuff, like I wasn't a fan of. Like I wasn't
Right.
like, oh, I'm gonna seek
Yeah.
out these movies.
Yeah.
But then but even like into my later teens, like young adult, I wasn't really that big. But I don't know. Now I'd watch a movie like Phantom Thread and I would enjoy it.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I can enjoy this movie.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't, and like I can appreciate like all the nuanced, the acting and all this kind of,
And I think part of that is I don't know if it's intelligence, but there's like a lack of understanding. You know what I mean? If you're watching something you don't understand, you're not going to be as engaged. Like if you're watching a documentary or you're watching you go to a talk that's for nuclear physicists and you know nothing about nuclear physics, I'm going to basically start zoning out. I'm like, oh, I understood like 3 sentences in this whole thing. But as you grow older and you get more life experience, all of a sudden you can relate to things more.
Right.
I definitely had that. Like I remember when I saw Clerks. I saw Clerks in theaters. I was 8 years old.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked.
So I was and Clerks is
like
very
some of the obvious stuff I would have gotten as a kid.
Yeah, and it was a black and white film. It was it was not just a black and white film. It was done like really poor. It's like a poor quality film.
Low budget.
I feel like it's shot well.
It was low budget.
It's really not that. It's not. But that's part of its appeal. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was shot kind of just by him. Like it wasn't backed by anybody. It was just him and a bunch of his friends, and they decided to do this thing. And he didn't really have an experience as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So, and I just remember, but it's very dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
Very like it's all just like a 2-shot of just 2 people just talking. Like the whole movie. That's what the movie is.
Yeah.
And I love it now. And I got into it when I was like 12 or 13. I rewatched it and I loved it and I became obsessed with it. And I used to watch it like all the time at that age.
Yeah.
But at 8 years old, I saw it in theaters. And the only thing I was like picking up certain things here and there, but there was a lot of stuff going over my head. And I remember like lines like that whole scene where he's talking about how his cousin broke his neck trying to suck his own dick.
Yeah.
I always remember that scene, but I reacted to it differently at 8 than I did at 12. At 8 years old, I was like, that's weird. At 12, I'm like, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like there was a difference. And I didn't know if it was a comedy or a drama or what. And it's clearly a comedy, but at 8 years old, I wasn't sure what it was.
Did at 12, did you just relate to it?
I grew up on Mallrats, not Clerks.
Right.
I didn't see Clerks until like way
So
later,
after I rewatched
like as an adult.
after I rewatched Clerks at 12, then I got interested because he'd had Mallrats out by that point. See, I saw Clerks when it was his only movie out.
I didn't.
And
See,
then
you lived near a
love
movie theater.
Mallrats.
Like you lived, and you would go to the theater every week. Like I didn't grow up in that.
Right.
Like we would see movies from Blockbuster or anyway, there was
Hollywood
a place called
Video.
Errol's, and then Hollywood Video.
Yeah.
Errol's
Oh,
went out of
wow. I
business.
totally forgot about that.
You remember Errol's?
Yeah, Errol's.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's like
Shit.
back in the fucking 80s, man.
Yeah.
I don't know
That's
that.
crazy.
Yeah, we're old, dude. We're old.
Yeah, well, I don't think we also had it in New York, but Mallrats.
Errol's?
became
No Errol's?
No, I don't think we had one.
Oh.
So Mallrats, though, I became obsessed with. That became my actual favorite one.
Oh, yeah.
Over Clerks, even. Like I watched Mallrats incessantly.
Yeah.
I was able to quote the whole thing at like 12 years old.
Yeah.
But so here's what happens in regards to my taste of movies. Is I think I only add to it. I think you're right. I don't think I ever really
It's hard to take
reject.
away.
It's hard to take away. And I think a lot of people, like, it's an impressionist thing. Like, when you're younger, I mean, some people aren't sentimental and they're just like, that movie sucks. But they liked it as a kid.
Yeah.
I could go, well, I think movies have their time and place. There are some movies I outgrow, you know, where I'll be like, I liked it at the time. I rewatch it now. I'm like, it doesn't really hold up. But I won't say it's a piece of shit movie. I'll still be like, I liked it as a kid.
But like when you watch Monster Squad, you have your childhood goggles on. Like you can't be objective about that movie.
No, I feel like I can be.
I feel like I can be objective about Masters
let me ask you
Universe,
this.
and I cannot be
let me
objective.
answer this question real quick.
Yeah.
Think of that question. Hold that question, because I think I can be objective.
I've
about
recognized it's not possible.
I've always been able to acknowledge that I actually think I can be objective about movie, but being objective about a movie never affected my liking for that movie. So I could be like, I enjoy a movie just because I enjoy the movie watching experience, and I enjoy watching these people play pretend on a screen and create a story out of nothing.
Yeah.
But I could also objectively go, I see that flaw. I see that flaw. That acting was no good. The editing is weird. It's choppy. The writing's not good. Like I could do all that, but those don't always affect my liking of the film. It's this weird thing.
Yeah, no,
Where
that's
I-
true for me too. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's definitely, like, if you went to a theater today and saw a movie that you had no context for,
Yeah.
no childhood connection to,
Yeah.
nothing like emotionally connecting you to that film,
Yeah.
like it's not a family or anything like that. you could be far more objective and
definitely.
critical of that movie than you would be something that you grew up with as a kid and you just maybe didn't understand
if you have
at the time.
moments, if you have pleasurable memories of a film and
Yeah.
it helped you during a time period when you were happy, like it's an association thing, probably more than anything.
Well, like if you're a kid and you're watching Monster Squad and you've never seen Dracula before, you've never seen Wolfman, you've never seen Frankenstein, it's your first experience seeing these characters, you're going to be like, this is the greatest movie
and just seeing
ever.
kids interact with
kids,
them.
and then kids like you.
And kids with cool dialogue, you know. Hey, asshole.
Dude, it's
you
called
looked-
brainwashing, man. That's a Hollywood
brainwashing.
brainwashing.
Well, here's the question to have. I mean,
people see
this
that
question
term,
could go,
brainwash?
This question can go to all of us. Do you
a
feel
lazy word.
that the films in your top list,
Yeah.
like your top 5, top 3, whatever, in
Yeah.
any of our lists, have become an engraved
morphed?
standard
Okay, got
of
it.
where to
So
judge?
are they
I don't
chiseled
think-
in stone or do they morph over time?
I don't
No,
think
no,
my
no, no,
top
what I'm
5
saying
has
is-
ever been fixed.
I've never had a
What
top
I'm
five.
saying is, have they become the
If I had one.
standard of where other films come from and how you judge other films? You see, so I judge, let's say, whatever, Godfather. I judge every other film that has to do with mafia, has to do with that era,
Based on that
from the
movie.
standards of Godfather.
Yes.
Does your top films now aren't just a list; they are a standard of how to perceive other films?
Yeah, it is. It is
think
for
so?
me, but it's less. I'm less consciously aware of it. I catch
Yeah.
it sometimes. Like when I saw Jurassic World,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh wow, this is like beat for beat." Like there are so many beats in Jurassic World that are like a throwback to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And it didn't upset me, but
Yeah.
I did notice it the first time we saw it because when we walked out of the theater, I was like, "Wow, that felt a lot like Jurassic Park, but went just in a different environment, different characters."
Did you feel you were judging it like, all right, it has to have like
I
Jurassic
don't think
Park?
it has to, but
I don't feel that way.
I don't
I don't
know.
know
Yeah,
that I
it's
feel
hard.
that way. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't feel like I hold anything to a standard because I'm always wanting to be surprised. I always want to be happy with that experience. I always want to enjoy a movie. That's what I do. I go into a movie participating almost. You know what I mean? Like I'm actively going, I want to enjoy this movie. Who doesn't?
But that's
Who
the
doesn't
whole-
want to,
yeah.
who
The
wants
whole
to spend 2
experience is
hours
this-
and have a terrible time? I'm almost going with a positive outlook where I go like, where I almost set myself into a frame of mind where I go, I'm going to enjoy this movie. Like,
But
I
it's
do
like
that.
the whole experience is designed that way.
Yeah.
Like if you close your eyes, like you go to bed one night and you close your eyes, you start thinking about something. You're sitting there in a dark space looking at something, some experience or whatever in your mind. And that's like when you go to a movie theater, you're sitting in a dark space with a giant bright screen. It's blasting you with all these images and
Yeah.
sounds and it's like it's intentionally designed that way to be non-distractive. So
Right.
all of your attention is on what you're seeing. And it's easy to if the director and the actors know what they're doing and are doing their jobs well, you're going to forget that you're watching a movie.
Right.
And you're going to be in that experience. And that's
Right.
when it's like, oh, they really did something good here.
Right.
But when you're like constantly aware that you're sitting in a theater watching a movie,
I know,
you're like,
yeah.
oh, they
and I feel
fucked
like
up.
people do that. Like they
Halloween was that for me. This new Halloween movie?
Yeah.
It was like totally caught me off guard.
you were
Like
like
it's
immersed?
really, really
yeah,
good.
it really was. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
The new
Yeah.
2018 one.
Yeah, and that definitely that's the filmmaker's job, like is to do that, and it's always trying to figure out how do we capture the audience attention, engage them, and
Yeah.
catch them off guard and surprise them. But I don't feel like I go into movies wanting it to be bad, but I also don't feel like I'm holding it to any standard, and that's part of they kind of go hand in hand. I'm not going if I see a dinosaur movie, I'm not going, well, this better be as good as Jurassic Park, or it better have the same beats, or it better be like or Godfather. Like I've seen a million mafia movies, and I think a lot of them are good, some of them aren't, but I don't go, okay, so is this ripping off Godfather, or is this doing this?
No, I definitely don't mean it that way.
No,
I
but
mean,
I'm
there's
just saying,
this,
like there's
you
different,
know,
different.
like
I
an
don't
homage.
sit there.
No, like,
I
what
don't
you
sit
said
there
about
comparing
Jurassic
usually,
Park.
unless they're beating me over the head with it, like where they're like, by the way, this is a sequel to this film, and I'm really letting you know. I don't usually sit there and compare in any way,
But that's what I'm
negatively
saying.
or positively.
I think it's like unconsciously comparing.
There's
I
an
think you might
unconscious thing, like
unconsciously
with Jurassic Park.
This is good. This is what I think is good for this type of movie.
Right.
Not necessarily a genre, but like sometimes a genre.
Exactly,
Like,
because
you
you can go watch like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. You
Yeah.
can go watch Jurassic World, and you can sit there and feel that there might be some beats missing just because of how you were affected by Jurassic Park itself.
Yeah.
And that can alter your perspective of Jurassic World.
Dude, it's a dance, man.
It's an
just
internal
like
thing.
But
you know, it's
Jurassic
like
World-
some films can engrave a standard where it's just
Where
emotionally,
you're comparing things without thinking about it.
without thinking about it.
Because you
Yeah.
love that one so much that you just want to have that experience again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably more so with sequels. You know, like Jurassic World was a reboot or a sequel of Jurassic Park. I'll tell you, I mean, I loved Jurassic World. I really enjoyed it in theaters. I didn't feel the same way I felt when I watched Jurassic Park, really. You know what I mean? I certain parts I did, but like the wonder, I always talk about this. The first time I ever saw that brontosaurus go up on its back feet and take those, eat those leaves off the tree.
Dude,
Yeah.
still
Oh,
today,
yeah,
I
that
can
part,
feel a
that's-
little bit of how I felt the first time I
Yeah.
saw that. Not
If I
it's
put
hard
if
to,
I put
like,
enough time
really-
between it, like a year or so, and I
Yeah.
rewatched that movie and those
you can
scenes,
like go
It's
back when you were a
amazing,
kid sitting
Yeah.
in the theater, like
Yes.
feeling that excitement or that like rush or whatever.
right? And I
That's-
don't
it's
get that as
amazing.
much as
Yeah.
an adult, and I think that's just part of the cynicism of being an adult.
Oh, but you're an adult. You're like numb.
Yeah, it sucks. But sometimes I'll be
Not necessarily.
I still get it when I see
No,
that scene
with certain
I still get
movies.
it, yeah.
with
I
certain
do,
movies
but like
we'll do it.
the wonder, and you know what it is? It's like as a kid, there's so much you don't know.
Yeah.
That unknown like fills your imagination with like so many possibilities. Like I remember watching when I first saw Jurassic Park, it was like there are things about that island they never showed, but then when I would like think about it later, I was like, I would remember all these like avenues that film could have gone in, or
Right.
things that they may have hinted at, but they never showed visually because
Yes.
my mind had like
filled it in.
filled it in.
Yeah.
It was like filled in the blank.
Right.
My mind is just like, oh well, he said something about this, so we're just gonna like create something in your head,
Right.
and then
So the only way I still get those feelings, like when you're a kid and you're watching some of these movies for the first time, the only way is when I go back and rewatch those movies. Like you were saying, like if I watch Jurassic Park, I'll still get remnants of that feeling. If I watch, there's other movies that I just love. I've talked about E.T. Even like other movies, like When Harry Met Sally. Like I love that movie, and I watch it, and when I'm done with it, I want to watch it again immediately. Like I see certain scenes, and I find myself smiling. Moonstruck, Monster Squad. Even I find myself just smiling, and I've seen them 100 times, and there's something still there. So yeah, there are certain ones that are cemented on my list, and it's because they've stood the test of adulthood.
I think that's the test is like how many times can you watch it and still
over the
like,
Feel the
enjoy
first.
it.
over decades, like everything changes in my life. I'm a
Yeah.
father now. I'm a husband. I'm an adult man with a beard. Like I'm just completely different than I was when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, whatever. But there's a constant in my life. There's certain movies, Princess Bride, Stand By Me, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future. They are a constant in my life, and they've transcended and moved along with me through all of my changes. They're my Andy and my Buzz Lightyear and my, you know what I mean? Like they're my toys from Toy Story. They're my toys that have come with me, and I still have this connection. No, but they are like
This guy.
There's
You know
a
what's
connection
interesting?
that
Like,
doesn't
That's
stop.
very true. Yeah, that's true. No, that's
like
100%
I've talked
true.
to like my parents about films that they had when they were growing up, and it's like it was just a completely different thing. Like
Experience,
they were going to the theater seeing like Bela Lugosi, like 10-cent.
Yeah, Phantom
theater
of the
or
Opera.
whatever.
My dad talks about this
you pay
too,
like
yeah.
$1 or 50 cents, so you get to
25
see like
cents.
5 movies. You hang out at the movie theater all day and you watch all these like black and white classics
with
or
a
something.
newsreel and a cartoon to boot.
But they don't. There's like that association that we have because Hollywood had just exploded. It makes me wonder if like people born in like 70,
Yeah.
like who grew up as a kid watching. But I don't know how much they watched anything. I don't
Right.
know if it was as prevalent as it was. Like television, MTV, that
Yeah.
whole generation
Pop
X,
culture
pop
really
culture like
smacks us
blew
in the
up in
face
the
now.
80s.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So it's like we are the generation.
More
who just
accessible media with
slammed.
VCRs and
Yeah,
DVDs.
You know,
cable
eventually.
TV,
I was
like
reading
100
an-
channels or whatever.
Yeah.
It was,
I was
like,
reading an
unknown.
article the other day, and they were talking about how we have 80% more advertisements around us than from 1970s, 80s.
I believe.
Yeah,
it.
I feel like
It's
all
crazy.
content
I
is
believe it.
literally like
Dude,
100x.
every
crazy.
time I
And they were
turn my
they were
phone
talking-
on, I'm getting you
It's
you open
crazy.
any app, on your
And they were
phone,
talking
you're
about
getting
that.
bombarded.
This is why we're so different now, is because back in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't that much advertising. Like we always talk about
Not
how,
like it is now.
how
yeah.
trailers, come out like freaking like 3 years before the movie comes out,
Yeah.
and the information about the film. Like then you literally wouldn't hear anything till the like a couple of weeks prior to the movie coming
Yeah,
out.
maybe
Oh,
a
you'd be
month,
walking
a month
down-
prior. You
you'd
see a
be walk-
poster, or
you
you
see
would
a
see
poster,
a
yeah.
trailer for it.
You'd be walking
a
down
preview.
Main Street, and then at the
Exactly,
movie
yeah.
theater
It's
says like
totally
The
different.
Shining, and you're like, "What's that?" Ah, here's 10
Exactly.
cents, and
Yeah.
you go in
Oh,
and you
Jack
have your mind
Nicholson.
blown.
I like him.
You're like, "What the fuck
Exactly,
did I just
yeah.
watch?"
Right.
Yeah.
I'm coming back with some acid next time.
Right. Yeah.
crazy, yeah.
And then word of mouth.
I try to when I watch a film, no matter if it's because I watch all kinds of film, especially I'll sit there and I'll watch a bad film.
Yeah.
You know, what I try to do is I try to set myself as a bystander within the film.
Yeah.
So I am experiencing the scenario as I'm there, and I think that's always been the greatest perspective of watching a film for me, because then I can sit there through a horrible film
Yeah.
and kind of feel like, okay, I'm a part of
But
this
see,
film.
that
and
works sometimes. I mean, like if you go to see a horror movie, it's harder. For me, it's easier to watch a horror movie at a distance and be like, you know,
I went the
not be as immersed,
Right.
because then it's like you just get all.
but then
fucking
you don't
worked up.
get scared and stuff, and you don't.
No,
get,
I still get like I still
love
get
the
like
adrenaline.
scared, but it's like I'll sit there with a group of people that like are easily scared from those,
Yeah.
and they're like freaking out at like every tiny little thing. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh come on, guys,
Like Halloween.
This fucking.
I truly like, especially.
I didn't even realize this. Your sister was like saying I was like tapping my feet or something.
Oh my God, your
and
foot
I didn't
was
even
going a mile a
perceive
minute.
it. I was like, but I was sitting next to somebody who was also losing
doing
her
that.
shit,
She's
and
squirming.
she was like spreading the anxiety amongst the whole like row, and I was like,
He was just trying to feel like he
you were
wasn't
like Thumper
alone.
from Bambi. Your
That's
leg
true.
was
I
just
was like,
going.
Yeah.
You're trying to feel like you're
There's
not
like
alone.
a 10-minute scene which just like nothing happens and it's all anxiety. You're just
all
like
suspense.
Oh,
Yeah.
like it's all
All right.
suspense. You're just
Yeah.
like something happened.
Good movie, man.
It's so good.
But
Yeah, so I try to go in like that, because I think in that, viewing a film in that form, to me, I feel like I always view it, even if I'm watching a film the second time, you know, I
Yeah.
always, like say Jurassic Park again, an example. I feel that brontosaurus scene always keeps that new feel to it. That
is it a Brachiosaurus or Brontosaurus? I said
I think
Brontosaurus. I think it may have been
Brachiosaurus.
Brachia.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Brontosaurus is, but I always thought that was a Brontosaurus.
there's a Bronto.
I don't know what the difference is. I thought they were both.
I
these
just
big,
remember the
long-necked
scene
things.
where
We
he's
grew out of
like,
it.
he's like, Brachiosaurus.
Brachiosaurus. That's right. Yeah,
That's the
the
only
little
reason.
kid.
Yeah. I didn't even know like when I grew up, Brontosaurus before Jurassic Park was like the
was
thing
the
in the
standard.
coloring books and the things,
Yeah.
and then Jurassic Park.
That's
was
probably why I'm
Brachia.
still confused.
Yeah.
Like, does anybody?
They all
know
have
the
crazy
difference?
names. They're
Yeah.
like Compy, Silariga,
Because they let a bunch of nerds name them.
Yeah, and they named them after like
So it's different
themselves
from the
and
book?
town and Jurassic Park, the movie.
It's no the dinosaur, that visual.
No.
Oh,
I mean,
I
they
thought
use
that's
the
what
same
you said.
dinosaurs.
No, he's saying like when you're a kid, when you see this big long necked dinosaur in anything, in a book, in a coloring book, whatever, it
You're
always
associated
called
with-
it a brontosaurus.
Yeah.
But then in Jurassic Park, they're calling it a brachiosaurus. I think their head's maybe a little bit
I
different.
think
Maybe
it has
maybe
like a
One
hump.
has
yeah,
the-
it's got
the
almost like
hump.
a
Yeah.
fin kind of a looking
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. But anyway, so I think when it comes to me and my taste in movies, definitely, obviously, tastes change. When you grow up,
Yeah.
you get a more
It grows.
more sophisticated. But I think the movies that have been on my list have usually been on my list. I've gone through little fads of movies like Mallrats and Clerks and stuff like that, where I was like,
It's weird.
That was my favorite
Rewatching
for like
that,
a minute.
It's like less. It was almost like this high school.
It was a very more younger
like,
man.
younger, like whatever they call it, rebel type movie.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like dick and fart jokes. They were
Totally,
like,
and they are funny. Like I watch them today, and I'll
It's
be
a
like, "That
clever
was
movie.
fun."
It's
Yeah,
funny,
but I would never put that on the top of my list. And at that time, I was like, "I love those." I love that movie. But I will still like Beverly Hills Cop, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Like those are in Trading Places, Coming to America. A lot of those Eddie Murphy movies.
God, there
in
was
the
a time
80s.
period where Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was like one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, chug that ass cock. Remember that? Will Ferrell.
Oh my
he's reading the Animal magazine. He's like beating off in the bathroom to like basically.
no, I don't remember this, but I do remember Will
Yeah.
Ferrell being in
It's
the
like
movie.
animal porn. He's just like
Oh,
watching
yeah.
rhinos bang, and he's just plays the state trooper or the animal rescue, the wildlife rescue guy.
Oh yeah, you're right. He's like
Yeah.
hunting them the
Yeah,
whole movie.
Will
Yeah,
Ferrell.
because they kidnapped the monkey or something.
Yeah, I just remember
Yeah.
when he's like beating off, and he's looking at his magazine. He's like, "Yeah, chug that ass cock." And somebody knocks on the
hilarious.
door. It's ridiculous.
This is before he became
Yeah.
family friendly.
Totally. But this was the time. Like back then, I was like, when that movie came out, I was like 14, and I love that.
Yeah.
But as I went on, like I look back at those movies, and I'm like, they're funny. They're like I have a little connection with them, but I would never put those on the top of my list. Then there's movies that I watched back in the day that have only gotten better for me. Big Lebowski is one of them. I watched that when it came out. I was 12 or 13. I liked it a lot actually, but. I liked it for different reasons than I like it now. Now I get more of the dialogue humor and other stuff. Back then, it was more the physical things that would happen when he gets hit with the mug, or he drops the weed, the lit joint on his lap when he's driving and he swerves in the alley. Like that kind of stuff made me laugh like
The
hysterically.
scene that always got me was the ashes.
Oh yeah, he throws the ashes out of the Folgers coffee
the
can.
and it just like whips in his face like this fucking.
The best part of that
cloud
scene
dead
though is
Steve
that
Buscemi.
he does
He's like,
not
"What the
react.
fuck?"
He does not react
Well,
at first.
not at first.
Not
He's
at
just
first.
he just sits there like covered, his face, beard, everything just
he's
covered.
he's got the sunglasses
buddy,
on.
his dead buddy.
His arms are crossed.
Yeah,
and
then he
and then
explodes.
what's his face doesn't even John Goodman doesn't even notice at first until he turns around. He goes, "Oh, I got some on you, dude." And he's like wiping up. He's like, "What the fuck, man? What was all that shit about Vietnam? You always fuck it up, Walter." So good. So, but like I more and more as I watch films too, and sometimes on multiple viewings they get better and better. But there's he's still laughing. That movie is
visualizing this.
fantastic.
That
scene
scene
is
sold
so
me on
good.
that movie.
That's
Like
great.
I was like, this movie's great. And then now I rewatch it. I'm like, man, Jeff Bridges is fucking incredible, and so is John
Goodman. Yeah,
both of them. Like everybody's great, but like Jeff
Those
Bridges
two.
and John Goodman, are, like their characters are just so unique and different
Yeah.
and extreme and
there's
great.
just like all the scenes, like they're constantly stepping on each other's dialogue, which
Yeah.
is an organic thing, a natural thing that's very hard to create on film.
Yeah.
But they're constantly stepping on the last, you know what I mean? Like while the other one's talking, the other one's like kind of talking because John Goodman will
it's
just
so natural.
John Goodman just goes on this rant about Vietnam, and you know Jeff Bridges is like constantly high, so he's just kind of droning on, and then Donnie keeps
like, "Calm
trying to
down,
understand
man."
the conversation, and the Steve Buscemi's over here, Donnie trying to like insert to try to understand what they're talking about, and he's always left out.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
the film is a masterpiece, like
It
just in
is,
terms of
yeah.
performances and writing. But so that movie's only gotten better over
Yeah.
time. But there are movies. I don't think. Okay, movies come out and I love them, right? But there are movies that will never ever be as important to me as the films when I was growing up. They will never be like the friends I had when I
It's
was 12
harder.
years old. Remember Stand By Me, that line?
Yeah.
I had lots of friends as I got older, but I'll never have friends like I did when I was 12. And that's how I feel. Like I don't feel like I'll ever come across a movie that will ever make me feel like that. There are movies I love that become favorite movies, like Sleeping with Other People is a movie. Jason Sudeikis, Alison Brie. I've seen that 100 times now. It's as a modern film, it's one of my favorites for some reason, and it does get added to the pile. But even that will never come close to those childhood.
There's so many good movies though. Like
Yeah.
There is, yeah.
people have like perfected the art of filmmaking
Yes.
in this day and age to a large degree over what it was in the 80s.
Technically.
I feel
From
like
a technical standpoint,
I feel
Like
that
my niece was telling me how she loved Arrival, and I'm
Yes.
just like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine being like 16 and watching that movie and
Yeah.
like having that impact.
There
Like,
wouldn't
the
have been a
impact it had
movie
on me as an
particularly like
adult
that.
is far more dull than the impact I'm sure it has on her. As like,
and
right.
films that have really truly only been around for almost a little bit over a decade.
Yeah.
So I still feel there's
More.
there's
so much
such
more, I think, that-
it's a new thing still. I still think that it's still growing wildly. I don't feel like anything within film. I understand what you're saying about being
I mean,
perfected.
like, you look at
I
the
feel-
quality of like certain films and the style of filmmaking like 40 years ago versus
But I think
a
that's
lot
generational
of films that come
to
out
me.
today.
That's generational to me. I mean, I
It
understand
is,
what you're
but
saying, but I think
the technical aspects,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
more, but even the storytelling.
They've
You know,
got
you
more
have people like
sophisticated. It's more
Christopher Nolan
sophisticated.
that just come out of fucking
100%.
nowhere. Like, you know, what was the one he did? Memento, and then
Memento.
before that he
Yeah.
did Pi, or was it Pi?
No, that's Darren Aronofsky.
The Following.
The Following.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he does these like really unique different films. I mean, he's not American. He's
British.
He's British.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe he just comes from a different background, different like social. Like he grew up, you know. Well, he did
But
grow
you
up watching
see that
Stanley Kubrick.
Hollywood
Yeah,
has
Kubrick.
moved away from those, like in the early
Hollywood doesn't
early
do the more
stages of
indie-
Hollywood. They got away from just those 5 official directors and moved more into like
They have to.
independence.
Steven Spielberg's like
in-
80 years old. Or is he 80?
No.
I'm not even
79?
70. He's in his 70s.
70s.
I thought he's 79.
I don't think he's 79.
Surrey.
Within
Siri?
anyway,
Siri?
while he's
Siri.
Siri,
I'm gonna go ask Katie Holmes'
while
daughter.
he's Siri
Go ask
Googling
Katie
or
Holmes' daughter.
Bixbying, whatever he.
Oh, I'm gonna Bigsby.
What's
It.
that?
Let's
Yeah.
see who's faster. Bigsby. No, I don't.
Is that a thing?
I don't use Bigsby.
It is-
There's a
it is.
Bigsby button on
Steven
here.
Spielberg is 70. He's actually only a few weeks younger than my dad. He's gonna be 72 in December.
Oh shit,
Yeah,
72.
he's only 71.
Oh, that's not bad.
He's actually he's less than a month younger than my dad.
So he's like 7 years younger than Arnold. How old was Arnold?
No, Arnold's the same.
Wait,
age.
was he 70 or who's 80
Arnold's-
then?
Nobody's 80.
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood's like 100.
92. Yeah,
he's like
92.
9,000 years old.
That guy.
He's basically Gandalf.
And he's still
That
making
guy
some great
is
movies. I'm ready
not
for his
gonna
new
die.
film.
He's
Anywho,
not. His mom was still alive as of not that long ago.
I just realized that one of the actors from the Fast and the Furious series is his son.
Yeah, Scott.
I never
Scott.
made that connection.
Yeah,
I was
they-
like, this
they have
guy
similar
looks so
eyes.
goddamn familiar. And then I saw something, and it was like Clint Eastwood with his son, and I was like, that fucking guy's Clint Eastwood's son.
Yeah. No,
That's
they
crazy.
actually look similar.
Yeah.
Yes, Clint Eastwood's 88.
Wow.
wow, I thought he was 90.
Okay, but
He's awesome.
I don't know how we derailed onto that. But so in terms of tastes, I will always have. But I know I have a different experience than other people as a kid with regards to movies. A lot of other kids that were my age were watching just kids movies, and that's hard to grow with kids movies, right? Like if you watch, if you're like, oh, that's my like Finding Nemo's my favorite film when you're like, this
Dude, if I watch
5 or
Aladdin
6.
or Beauty and the Beast or Lion King, like I cannot be objective.
Right.
It's so weird, and I'm like, are these great movies, or is it just because they blew
Yeah.
my fucking mind when I was like 5
exactly.
years
No,
old?
and that's
Like,
a
I
good
don't
point.
know.
But at the same time, there are other movies that don't necessarily follow, or like I was like, I love those as kids, but I don't think that they are the same now. Like for me, there are movies
what
like
movies?
that. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna be blasphemy, and people are not
Don't
gonna
do-
like
don't
this.
do it.
No, it's not Disney. And it's not that I actually really still like this movie a lot, but the feeling is different from them when I was a kid, which is Hook. Okay, I love Hook. I actually still really enjoy that movie, but I don't feel the same way as the first time I was watching the movie as a kid. Okay, it is different.
There's something interesting about that movie where like the first act, like I'm like in,
Yeah.
and I can like have that childhood experience, I guess,
Right.
associated with it. But then the second act, like for some reason, it falls apart
Right.
more for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. When they're in like Neverland and they're like there and all the baseball and I don't know.
Yeah, it gets a little
Something-
bit. But I do like the
something
movie.
about it.
I do
I
like
still
the
love
movie a
the
lot,
movie.
but
Yeah.
I don't feel the same as I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I revered it a
interesting.
little bit more than I would now. So there are movies like
That
that.
is blasphemous.
It feels
You're off
right?
the podcast.
Oh no, anybody who's like
You're outta here.
You're out of here.
Mike
No.
off.
But like if okay, Monster Squad, that movie I feel like
I'd never seen it before.
I know, and you were like really like
I liked
"Holy
it.
shit."
How have you
I
not
liked
shown
it.
him
I
this
want to
film
rewatch
yet?
it. No, we watched it. We
no,
watched
like
it.
a couple years ago,
Yeah.
which is it's on Prime by the way now.
I
streaming
know.
now,
I
so if
saw
you're-
it.
yeah.
I keep seeing it pop up, and I'm like, should I just watch
You
this?
should watch it again.
I watched that slice, but I think I'm gonna rewatch because I thought it was gonna be like Monster Squad.
Yeah, no. Monster Squad's got this funny thing where that movie, I think, ages well. I don't know. There's something about it because it's especially in an age where people love the 80s and like Stranger Things and It and
Yeah.
all this stuff. If you want to stand it, people are like, oh, yeah, Goonies. I'm like, not enough people
I
know
haven't
about
watched
Monster
Goonies
The
Squad.
in so
only,
long.
the
I watched
only thing
Goonies
that upset me
2
about
months ago.
Monster Squad.
Still really great. I always like Monster Squad better
I gotta
than
go back and
Goonies.
watch Goonies. I want to go.
Yeah,
know.
I like it like a little bit better. Like Monster Squad is a little bit better.
Wait,
for me.
what?
I don't know
Whoa,
why.
whoa! You
I
like
know.
Monster Squad more than Goonies?
And I started to think I should stop saying that, and I should maybe just like hold them at the like different levels. They're different movies, definitely. But Monster Squad is a better film.
Dude, Goonies never say die, bruh.
I know. Monster Squad says,
Hey,
"Hey,
you,
asshole."
hey, you guys, bruh.
Hey, you, bruh.
Hey, you guys.
But what are
Yeah.
some lines from Monster Squad? Monster stole my
You
Twinkie.
Goonie! Remember when he got
Yeah,
the jacket?
yeah, that's
Kick
right.
him in the nards.
Kick him in the nards.
Wolfman doesn't have nards.
Just do it. Wolfman's got nards. A fat
Yeah.
kid.
I need to.
No,
I
Monster-
only watched it the one time.
Yeah, you should rewatch
with
it.
him.
Monster Squad is on point, and I feel like it holds up. And I don't think it's nostalgic because, like, not just nostalgic because, like I said, like, okay, you saw it, never saw it until you were in your 30s, and you saw it and were like, I almost felt nostalgic watching Monster Squad, and I'd never seen it before, right?
Yeah, like it. Oh, well, I mean, it's an '80s movie. Like
Yeah.
everything about that movie, like
But there's some 80s
screams
movies that
like,
don't-
But it's like great '80s.
Yes.
it screams like good '80s.
Yes.
Like what made the '80s good? Like all those like little nuanced things where they were able to capture like that magic of being a kid and like the
Right.
kids
That's the
thrown
thing,
into
yeah,
these crazy,
yeah.
fantastical situations and
Yeah.
like I had never seen Poltergeist.
Right.
Yeah, I had never seen the first Poltergeist, and then
that
I for some reason never wanted to watch it because I had this. I read that it was PG, and I was like, oh, PG, it's gonna be garbage, it's a kids movie.
Spielberg.
So I didn't watch
Producer,
it yet.
yeah.
Well, Toby Hooper directed it.
Yeah, that's right.
who
But Spielberg
did,
present
Texas Chainsaw.
Texas
Massacre.
Chainsaw.
Yeah,
But-
presented by Spielberg.
Yeah, which means
yeah.
it had the Spielberg feel to it.
Yeah, and so I just chose not to. I
Like Gremlins.
consciously chose not to watch it because I thought it was just not going to be good. Because I got into this thing where it was like all the rated R movies I
Yeah.
could get. Right. Finally, I was just like, well, whatever the fuck. Like, I'll just watch it. Like everybody's always talking this greatness about this fucking kids movie. That is, first of all, it's not a kids movie.
It's not.
Second of all, that movie is a fucking masterpiece.
It's
like
great.
that is an incredibly well done, well made movie,
And holds
like,
up.
Like literally, half of my life all of a sudden made sense. All these references that I never fully got were from that fucking movie.
Here.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why did I wait so long to watch this movie? It like blew my mind.
Do you guys remember The Gate?
No.
You don't remember The Gate?
I don't remember The
With
Gate.
the little kid that he had a little gate in his backyard with the little demons coming out
I don't
of it.
remember that.
You guys got to
No.
see that one. Didn't get a lot of good rating. Didn't get a lot of viewership. A lot of people didn't talk about it.
But did you like it a lot back then?
It's nostalgic to me.
But so if you watch it now, can you be Can you be like, that's not actually
When you
great?
guys are talking about it, I was like, I'm gonna go back and rewatch this
Yeah, because
film.
you got to
to see
rewatch
if-
them as an
see
adult
how-
to see.
I did see it
Yeah.
as an adult, re-see it again, and I still loved the film, but I didn't do this perspective.
You know, this
I'm
makes me
trying to-
want to rewatch Flight of the Navigator and The Explorers.
Yes, Explorers.
Both
I
of
don't
those.
think
Oh,
holds up.
I just
Does
watched.
Explorers?
I just watched Flight and Navigator.
Is it
I
still-
love it's
still awesome?
I don't
It's
think
still
Explorers
awesome.
holds up as well as some other ones. Like E.T. holds up better than
I
Explorers.
just remember in my mind, like I literally was like, I saw Explorers and I was trying to like build a spaceship in my backyard. Shit.
Yeah,
Like,
because
that's
they
what
did
I
it
was
as
Yeah, I
doing.
garbage
remember
cans. And,
Yeah, like I was literally collecting garbage.
Yeah, I
so,
think
like,
batteries not
you know.
included holds up a little bit better than.
Oh yeah, I
batteries
just
not
rewatched
included.
that
Yeah,
like a couple
yeah,
months
I
ago.
love that.
Yeah,
That's
I love that.
streaming
I
somewhere.
think it was that whole phase
like
of
Cocoon.
I need to go watch old
Um,
sci-fi
Oh yeah,
film.
Cocoon.
But I'm trying to think of what movies do I basically
My
not.
Stepmother's an Alien.
You don't
Oh my God, with Kim Basinger and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remember Flight and Navigator? Them sing ba 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 ran.
yeah.
That was dude. That was just awesome. When
I
he
saw
tried to-
that
he would-
ship at
this-
Disney World.
Yeah, you were
The
telling me about the
I
actual
I
ship,
took
yeah.
photos. I should show them to you. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It was small. It was like the size of this room.
That
Like the
kid in
model.
that film and that the personalities within that ship and the family and everything, that whole story is still unique to me. It's still visually stunning.
Yeah.
it still captures me just like I was a little kid for some reason.
Yeah.
There's
That one
something
I can
about
say 'cause
that-
I just it's
But that 80s ending where like everything goes haywire and then somehow this like magical force sends you back in time to like right at the beginning of the
So-
movie
yeah.
again. Like everything resets like a video game.
and it was a trip
I-
in
like,
the woods.
I loved it
he
as a
fell in the
kid. Like
woods,
that was
yeah.
always like such a magical thing to me. Like everything went fucking sideways, and then at the end of the movie, like the last scene, you know, the kid wakes up and he's like back in his bed, and
Right.
and like it really happened. But then you question it for a moment. Like Masters Universe ends that way,
Yeah.
where they wake up. Courtney Cox wakes up.
Was it a
and
dream?
she was like.
Right.
Was it a dream? My parents are still alive.
Yeah.
Like that horrible thing that happened, like didn't happen yet. She stops it, and then
Yeah.
the boyfriend, and
He
she's like,
also
"Don't let
remembered-
your parents fly the plane."
Right.
And then they're like, "It was
She
real."
steals
and then
their
she
keys.
sees Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah.
you know, I have the
It was just
power.
hope
So
that whole
good.
point that he
I
tripped
get
in the
chills,
wood
dude.
and
I get
hit-
chills.
hit his head, and he traveled through time. That was
Yeah.
the whole.
But he
Yeah.
like his dad worked it for some government thing, and
yeah,
then
exactly.
that's how he. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of what movies. Hook is one of them, but what other movies I don't actually like. I watched them when I was older, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to recategorize that. It's
Yeah.
like there are movies, Back to the Future, still favorites. Like they stay on my list. They don't move. Stand by
I
Me.
can't
Princess
watch.
Bride.
Yeah, I can't watch Back to the Future and like not think.
Yeah.
like and not have
But
some
I don't think that's
incredible
I don't think that's
affinity for
just
it.
nostalgia though. I think that's also because it's a good film, and that's what I'm saying. Like there are certain movies that I feel like they have to be recategorized when I watch them as adults. Where
See,
I go, that's no longer on top of my list.
This is like one of the benefits of being a father because you can show your daughter these
Totally.
movies and then be like, so was that good or am I crazy?
And she's like, "You're
she's gonna be
crazy."
like, that was a great movie. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay,
Daddy,
so it
you're
is a good
crazy.
movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just
so
like
my
fixated.
daughter's Sarah Connor for Halloween. Terminator 2 Sarah Connor with
Yeah.
the
That's
boots and the
awesome.
black tank top and the sunglasses and everything
That's
like that.
awesome.
And she's telling everybody she was Sarah Connor. I was like, yeah. So listen, Sarah Connor's from a movie called Terminator 2. She's technically in Terminator 1 and 2, but Terminator 2 is the one you're gonna be dressed up as. She's like, oh yeah, I like that movie. I'm like, oh yeah, you do? She's like, yeah, I saw that in the movies with Grandma and Grandpa. I'm like, no, that didn't really happen, but cool. Good. She's like, yeah, it's one of my favorites. I'm like, great, excellent. We'll keep saying that because
Yeah.
you know we'll brainwash you into thinking that's true, just so you know get a good taste of
Sarah
cinema
Connor's a
early.
great character.
She is.
Yeah,
She's a
yeah,
strong
that's a great
female
choice.
character. I mean,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
mentally disturbed, but
Well, I mean, she literally had a robot trying to murder her.
Yeah,
Like
and she's
most of
getting
her
raped.
life.
She has
She's
the
getting
rights
raped
to be
in the
mentally disturbed.
institution. Look, the guy's looking in her face. It insinuates that there's more
Oh,
going on
that's
there.
Not
And
rape.
no. Okay.
That's
It's
unwanted,
insinuating that
unwanted
there's-
licking.
It's not rape, but it's
definitely not
it's definitely could be considered sexual assault. But there
It was
was
some sort of
yeah,
sexual
but there,
assault,
but
yeah,
she
true.
says something after that
Molestation.
when she's busting him up. Doesn't she say something?
She says
that
something towards-
indicates that
yeah,
he's doing
yeah.
other things
Yeah.
to her too.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
She
remember
says
that.
something.
She does. I remember.
She's like, oh, you. It's not like Kill Bill where she's like, I'm Chuck and I like to fuck. Like, oh, I'm Buck and I like to fuck. Remember that in Kill Bill where she's been in a coma and there's that guy, the orderly pays the guy to go in and like bang her while she's in the.
Oh,
He's got
God,
a
I
side
blanked
business.
that out.
Oh yeah, and she wakes up and she has this vision of this guy. She goes, "You're Buck, and you like to fuck," and she like kills him, slams his head in the door.
Yeah.
It's not like that, but there's like something that indicates that this guy has been doing things to her.
Yeah.
Wow, we're completely off topic.
I know. I'm like,
So I know it's
I
been
was
Sarah
talking
Connor.
about?
It's a
Okay.
good point. We're
so
talking
she's
about
Sarah Connor,
Yes.
and then
Let me ask
What
you.
was
Let me
the
ask you
point
guys
of-
this. Let me ask you. this.
So some movies you were saying I could show her the movies. And,
yeah, I was
and-
just saying
and
like
she
then
could be
it's like because you don't. Sometimes I'm like I know.
you need an objective view by somebody
like I've
who's
run
newly
into-
coming
but
up,
I have also
not
run-
in that generation.
I run into people that were born in like the late 80s, early 90s that like hate 80s movies.
Yeah.
Like they just dislike
Some
the
people
era,
don't like
they
the
dislike
past.
the look, the clothing,
Yeah.
and
I was born in
all
late
that, like-
'85, so I actually was pretty young when the '80s ended.
Yeah.
I was 4 years old when the '80s ended.
Yeah.
So
I was born in 81, so I'm like
So you
full,
had
full
several-
blown.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I always had a solid. So I remember
Yeah.
time in the '80s, but I also was always into older stuff, music and movies. Like whatever decade I'm in, I'm more interested in the decade prior.
Right.
Or a couple decades prior, and I'm in 2018. I can give a fuck about 2010 to 2008. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
whatever.
I love
Gotcha.
going back and I'll watch movies from the 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
60s. Yeah.
Yeah, but not everybody's like that, like you said. So some people, I don't know. I don't know if they bring that stuff with them. But I'm trying to think of what other movies I don't feel like in rewatching. Like that does happen.
They
I'm
don't
loyal
hold
to
up.
movies if they're good films.
Well, let me ask you this: what films?
Like
you
Rad
think-
has some quality issues, but that is one
But
that's
that's
nostalgic
one
for
that's
me.
nostalgic for you.
Yeah.
But what films would you say that within like 2009
That I like a lot.
that hasn't made it into, let's say, your top list?
Wedding Crashers is a comedy. Wedding
That's
Crashers, I think, is incredible. Tropic Thunder, these are comedies. Sleeping
When
with
did
Other
that come out?
People.
Like, I'm
Wait,
talking about
Tropic
your
Thunder?
top-
2008.
Like your
What about
top 10, your
Inception?
top 5.
Inception. Most Nolan films, Dark Knight,
That was
Inception.
the first movie that popped in my mind.
So, okay, let's talk about this top 5 thing. I've never put a top 5 list in. I will never do it. Like, there's no such
'Cause
thing
you
as a top 5
can't.
to me. No, it's not. For me, it's not possible. I will never, ever, ever do a top 5 or be able to do if you ask me top 5 right now.
But you just said top 3 directors, like Scorsese would be. In
I
your
can
top
do it with
3.
directors. I can do
Really?
it. Yeah, I can do it with directors.
You can't do it with film.
I can't do it with movies. No.
It's so weird to me, like
'Cause it's different
My
genres,
top
it's
3
just
would
so
be,
different.
you know what? How I would do it, or a top 5? I would have like 10 top ones and then 10 top.
That's not a
2s
top
and 10
5.
Yeah, well, that's the only way I can think with
Exactly,
it.
but
Like
it's
I
not-
can't because there's
No, I
too
said,
many
I said
films that
top
would be
10,
comparable.
top 5. I'm just looking
I've
for. let's
always
say-
said if you wanted me to do a top list, I could. The absolute minimum I could do is top 25, but it'd probably be more like a top 50 to top 100.
And none of them are like the number
which is a
order
pretty
doesn't matter.
good, which is a pretty good like.
But
you know,
the number
paring
order
down of
doesn't matter.
movies.
There
Yeah,
isn't like a
definitely
number
compare
No,
how
it would
much
never
movie.
be in any particular order.
Yeah,
yeah.
this is just a list that's like not numbered.
That's right. But I will tell you from
Which
2000
doesn't even make
onwards,
It's like a
that doesn't
room full
even
of
work.
posters.
That's like
Yeah.
a top
it doesn't.
one.
But if
Like a
I
fucking
could do
room
a
of
top,
posters.
I could do a top 50. But the top 50 to top 100 is still a very small list compared to how many movies there are and how many movies I've seen.
Fuck yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. If you go from 2000 onwards, Wedding Crashers, Tropic Thunder, Dark Knight, Inception. Geez, what else?
What films within the 2010? Obviously, those have made it to your nostalgic. Like,
They become
they've
like
become
films that
part
I
of-
love.
yeah,
Sleeping
yeah.
with Other People. I really love Actually.
Yeah.
You know, I like a good romantic comedy if it's right, and there's only like a handful that I
Yeah.
feel like are great, and
Yeah.
a couple of them come out. Elf, it's a Christmas movie. I love Elf.
Don't say
Yeah.
anything bad about Elf. I
don't
watched
wanna-
that. That's
I-
become
I
something
think
that
I think it's the
watch
only
every
modern Christmas.
I will say I was not a huge fan of Elf
Of
when it came out.
originally.
I'm still not a huge fan of it, but I appreciate it more. I actually didn't.
You can
like
see
it
why
that
it's a
much.
classic now for
But
people
I
at
didn't
Christmas
like.
time.
It felt like such a forced. It does not feel. I wouldn't
No.
consider it a classic.
Okay, I do.
I understand
I
why
think it's
people
the only,
do
It's
now.
the most modern classic there is in Christmas.
You know what it is? It's I love Will Ferrell's performance.
Yeah.
Like every other actor in the movie, though, I thought I didn't like for some reason.
Oh, really?
Like Zooey
Yeah.
Deschanel, which I normally
Spaghetti
like
and
her.
syrup?
I thought she was
I think,
really
I think
bad.
everybody else is just fine. It's him that shines.
He
in that.
shines.
and
He's like the
that's
best
enough
part.
for me. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's enough of like that character's so good.
That's why I can. That's why I'm like, okay.
Yeah, right,
Like Will
exactly.
Ferrell's
'Cause
performance
you can
is
appreciate
so
him.
unique and different.
Oh my
and,
gosh,
yeah,
I know
you
him.
know.
Yeah.
That's the
You
best.
sit on a throne of lies. No, there's a lot of great stuff.
He owns the shit out of that
He
role.
owns the shit. Yeah,
He
just
does.
destroyed
It's
it.
so good. Geez, what else? What
It
other
doesn't hold
movies?
up, dude. It's hard, man.
You know, I definitely like the Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think are great comedies. You know, I wouldn't put them in the same categories of the other ones I just said. Geez, I mean, let's say dramas and other things. See, it's definitely less. It feels like there's less things. Tarantino, Kill
I
Bill
don't know.
movies. Any of the Tarantino films. Any Tarantino film in the 2000s, from the two Kill Bill movies
Yeah.
to Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards, Hateful Eight. Those are
But
all.
then you can go. You're like a director.
No, I'm saying the films themselves. If they were all done by different people, those individual movies, I think, are so good. I love.
Yeah, but
Tarantino
that's
films.
because the Tarantino style of filmmaking
But
was in those.
But
films.
it's that. But still, it's just the movie itself. Like those movies. Yes, it's the style, but I'm just saying I love those movies. You know, like if you were to say, do you love those movies as individual movies? I'm like they're phenomenal.
Maybe
like I
this is a
watch
good
them.
topic.
I love the plots of each one. I love the acting. I love the shots, the music, the composition. Love those movies. Yeah. Anyways, I mean, there are movies that do get added. I just
Yeah.
think I don't delete a lot of my favorite films, but there are
Well,
ones that get
I wouldn't delete
recategorized.
anything.
There are ones that get recategorized when I watch them as an adult, and I go, not as good as I remembered it, and not as good as it was to me when I was a kid. You know, Clerks and Mallrats could be an example of that, where I kind of like they're not as good. Hook is kind of an example of that. Love the movie still, but it's not.
Oh man, I
doesn't
don't
fit
know.
the same
I don't know if I would
category.
include Hook. Like it's hard.
I think that's the one that's probably
I-
going to be the
I
most
really
difficult for
like-
people to. And for myself, I still really like it. I just don't feel
there
the same.
There are
There are
problems
movies I
with
feel
that
the same-
movie, but like there are also things about it that I like really like.
And that's what I'm trying to say is like I still love that movie and I'll rewatch it and I
Yeah.
love it, but I just don't feel the same when I watch, for instance, Monster Squad or I watch some other or Back to the Future. I don't feel the same as I did or Jurassic Park. Those movies still create that same feeling in me. Hook, a little different. And I'm not
But
saying it's a major
I also
change.
wouldn't. I don't think I'd. I don't know if I'd hold Hook at that like with Back to the Future. Or
That's probably
Jurassic
why
Well,
it
that's
is. It's
because
probably
I
why it
think-
is. It's just the quality of the movie itself is not up to those. And honestly, a lot of people would agree on that.
I mean, I love Hook,
unless
don't
you're a
get me
child
wrong,
that
but
watched it
it-
as a
well,
kid.
yeah.
Hook was
People
not
love
the
it because
same.
they as a kid. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like if they watch it as an adult, like critics panned it. It did not do well amongst considered a great film at the time. But kids that were watching it loved it.
Dude, there's
Yeah.
but so many, Bangarang,
Sandlot,
man, Bangarang.
Bangarang. Yeah, that's
Bangarang.
what I'm saying. The movie, it's
Dude,
become
the
a
food
classic
scene,
because
like,
all
that
those
food. How much?
Yeah,
you wanted to eat that
yes.
shit.
I mean, it all
colored-
looked completely inedible, by the way. It looked like paste. It looked like Play-Doh been mixed
It-
together.
It looked like a ton of like colored
Oh, my-
whipped creams or
Yeah.
something or whatever. But I still as a kid, you're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what the fuck? I mean, I don't know how much of a kid I was. I guess I was like
You were-
12
you were-
or something.
You were younger. It came out in 91.
Oh shit, 91. That was 94.
91, yeah, you
no,
were 10.
so I would have been like 9
9
or
or 10,
something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I
So-
don't know.
Never
it's
Ending
hard, man.
Story is the one that
Yeah, Never Ending Story.
stays.
Daryl
What about the
actually.
Star Wars movies?
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars movies are just Star Wars movies. They're their own beast.
I mean, I know people exist. I know a lot of people exist today that watched it as a kid, and like all three of them, and
Has
they
become their
associate
world.
that. I didn't
We
see
talk-
any of
I've
those
never-
movies until I was like a teenager.
Oh, I was.
And
I
I
was
watched
a
them
kid.
out of sequence. And my favorite, I think the first one I watched was probably maybe Empire, and then Return, and then Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I always, for a long time, I liked Return because it was like the best looking. Maybe the Ewoks. I don't fucking know. But whatever it was a Return was my favorite. Then Empire became my favorite.
Yeah.
And I appreciated Star Wars for what it was, but then I guess Empire is probably
Empire's
still
the
of the
best.
trilogy.
The thing
For
is,
some
I
reason.
never. we've talked about this before.
I think it's Hoth.
Star
I like
Wars,
Cole.
I've never been obsessed with. I love
Yeah.
Star Wars, but
I still don't
I've never
understand the
been
obsession. Like,
yeah, I've never been
don't.
obsessed like people were like these are the greatest movies. I'm like I've never felt that way. I love Raiders of the Lost
They're
Ark and
great
Indiana
stories.
Jones
Yeah.
way more than I love Star Wars, and I love Star Wars. I think Star Wars are great.
I think
movies.
Star Wars
I love the
now,
mythology.
within the last 5 years, has been far more fleshed out. I mean,
Yeah.
the prequels were okay. But
Yeah, I like Empire. That's still my favorite. But
Yeah.
I think Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, those are movies that never die for me. Like those movies
the
specifically
movie came out the year I was born.
Yeah, the first and the third one especially. Yeah, that's right.
Is that how you come out?
Raider
Yeah,
that
that's how it
music,
came
but Raiders and Last Crusade. Those movies just won't stop being amazing to me. I watch them.
Temple Doom, dog.
Nobody. Okay, first off,
Dude,
I like
that
Temple
was
Doom,
my
but Temple Doom-
favorite movie as a kid. was
and that's
Temple
been,
Doom.
but that's been shifted because as an adult you have to shift that. It can't.
I
be your
mean-
favorite now. It can't.
Out of all of them, obviously Raiders is the best. But
I like Die Hard 2. Die Harder was my favorite for the longest time.
it was also
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah, but it's not now.
Only
Die
because
Harder?
it was like because of the snow.
Yep.
And because it was in Northern Virginia
Yeah,
or
which is
whatever,
right where
DC
you live.
or
Yeah,
Dulles or whatever.
it was Dulles,
and so
too.
that connection made it like, oh my god, like I live
Right.
here. And
But now,
snow.
now the first
anything
one,
with snow and Christmas, I'm like,
I
it's
know,
good.
right? But the first one is now my favorite. Like this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Die Hard is my
That's what
favorite.
I'm saying. So it's sort of like sometimes you got to recategorize, and that's how I feel about like that
Yeah.
one. Temple of Doom. I like Temple of Doom, but I don't like it even close as much.
There are
as I like the
elements
first
of
and
that
third.
movie that I think are great. Like I like the way it opens with the whole that ridiculous that makes no sense.
Yeah.
In the opening sequence where they have the whole the choreographed scene where there's like
Yeah.
100 ladies like all dancing.
Yeah,
and-
at the Obi-Wan Club.
at the Obi-Wan
Yeah.
Club, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
like. I remember discovering that on my own and not reading that existed. Like I was watching because I would watch that movie repeatedly. It
Yeah.
was one of these like I just come home, go to sleep, and I'd put on
Right.
whatever random movie, and then that was one of them.
Yeah.
And I remember like watching it, and then there's a scene I didn't even notice it in the beginning, but there's that. Well, I guess it's the only scene they show it is that when they fall off, jump out the window, fall through all the little like
Glass
with
pane?
that overhangs
awnings,
or whatever.
awnings or whatever,
Awnings, yeah. And then they land in the car, and then they show a scene where the car, like outside the car,
Yeah.
and it says Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's right.
Obi-Wan Club
It's
or
also a
whatever.
prequel to
And
Raiders.
then I noticed that what's his name was like that random guy.
From Teenage Mutant Ninja
Ghostbusters.
Turtles 3.
No, Ghostbusters. What's his name? Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd is the guy that like is talking to Indiana Jones as he's getting onto the plane.
That sounds right.
It's like some random throwaway
Yes,
scene where he's
that
like
sounds-
2
Oh, wow.
seconds.
Oh my God,
he's
I
like,
forgot about that.
He's like, Mr. Jones, and he does this weird accent,
Dan
and then
Aykroyd.
he's like walking him on. He's like, "See ya, Shaoling,"
Yeah.
and then he closed the door, and it says like Shaoli or some shit
That's
on
so
there.
funny.
And then he
Well, so
smiles.
that's also a prequel to Raiders. Temple of Doom is a prequel, which is strange.
Is it a prequel?
Yeah, it takes place like a year or two before Raiders, which is strange. They just don't explain why they decided to do that.
Oh, I
but
never-
there's
I
no
never made that
Nazis in Temple
connection.
of Doom.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're not. I mean, Nazis existed at that point, but we weren't in a world war or anything.
I like that it takes up that kind of puts the spot. I mean, they have a fantastical element that explains why all these children are enslaved in that movie.
Right.
But
yeah. So the
I
one
never
last,
really liked the Indiana Jones series.
You're lying.
I am.
You're
I
lying.
know.
I have to say one more though. That's
Anyone
actually
that
really-
says that is a
this
liar.
really
That's a liar.
this movie, and I was just talking about this with my wife actually. This is kind of related to this topic of childhood movies. Superman, the original Christopher Reeve Superman, and that whole series,
Yeah.
1 through 4. So Superman 1, Superman 2, Superman 3, and Superman 4: Quest for Peace. I loved all of them as a kid. Always loved the first one the most. Second one after that, third, fourth, whatever. But I never noticed anything wrong with any of those movies. Okay, as an adult, and I now own
I
this
was
whole
never
collection.
I was never into them.
Yeah, I don't know why, because
I
literally
saw him as a
that
kid, and I was just like, I like the music. I remember liking the music.
that first Superman still gives me chills. There are parts of it that are dated and don't hold up.
I think I saw
But
the later ones
in
first,
general,
like
the
Richard
effects
Pryor.
in that movie are actually pretty fucking solid. For 1978, 40 years ago.
Which the one where he goes, he
flying-
spins the Earth in reverse?
The first one.
Oh, then that's the one I saw.
Okay, the first
And
one.
I thought that was crazy.
Yeah. There's shit in that movie that I'm like, how is this 40 years ago? You know?
Yeah.
And it's still, Christopher Reeve does a fantastic performance as Superman. There's scenes like the music and just like where you first see him, and it's nobody's played Superman like Christopher Reeve did. Like he's still he brings that kind of like pureness to the role that I don't think anybody's been able to recreate. Now, as an adult, I see more flaws with it than I did as a kid, but I still get chills from it. That's definitely nostalgic, and there are parts of it that are still great. But the fourth movie, third and fourth, but especially the fourth, Quest for Peace, the producers had sold off the rights to the Superman movie to Canon Films, known for 80s B-movie schlock.
Yeah.
And they proceeded to butcher this movie. I've watched this as an adult, and it is so bad. There's a scene where he's got Mariel Hemingway or Margaret Hemingway or whatever up in space. He's holding her hands. They're flying through space. She's a human woman flying through space, and she's totally fine, like as if she's flying.
She's in space.
She's
like,
flying through space.
I remember the scene.
Superman emanated like a special sphere of magic around her.
No, but
with
that
his
didn't
alien
happen.
powers.
That didn't happen. And also,
He's
it's a
breathing
recreation
through
of
her
the scene from the
pores.
first
He's holding
movie.
her hand.
No, but in the first
Yeah.
film, he flies with Margot Kidder, Lois Lane, through the sky.
But it's through the sky.
It's through the sky. It's fine. And she's doing that whole
drops
poem
her,
thing,
too.
which I think does not hold up, where she's saying that poem in her head, and it's kind of a bad scene, but or the dialogue is. But they try to recreate that, but she's flying through space, and then she's flying through a train, and then like the background is completely trash. It looks like somebody's just pulling some screen behind. Like they had no money for effects, for special effects for the fourth movie. So everything they did in the first one is done like as if they got like the D-list crew member to like do this. And the worst special effects house, they had no money to create it. None of it holds up. It looks terrible. The plot is stupid. They take a hair from Superman, they put it in a nuclear missile, they throw it into space. Superman grabs it, throws it into the sun. Somehow they knew he'd throw it in the sun. A fully formed and clothed nuclear man comes out of it. He's got a cape. He can speak English. And he comes down to the ground. And he goes to go to Lex Luthor. And he's like, I want to kill Superman. Why? You're just a nuclear missile and a piece
It
of
sounds
Superman's
like Batman
hair.
and Robin is what it
There's
sounds
no
like.
sense
It
in
makes
logic in
no
that film
sense.
whatsoever. And the whole thing, the whole patronizing, like the whole, I'm going to rid the world of its nuclear weapons, and everybody's clapping. Like, the whole movie is really bad. So that movie got recategorized.
Oh, is that the one where he gets rid of all the nukes?
Yeah, same movie.
I remember liking that movie.
No, it's really bad. It's on our list, by the way. It's on, that we're gonna watch.
Oh,
It's
all right.
really, really, really
I
bad.
remember thinking like, wow, this is
Now,
cool.
that
It's like
movie's so-
Captain Planet.
Okay, yeah, right. That movie's so bad. I can't. I have to watch it though. Like it's a
Yeah.
movie that it's not like but it's been recategorized. I thought it was great as a kid. I didn't see any difference from that in the first, second, third in terms of quality of special effects. Not the case anymore. So that applies.
That's crazy.
All right. Well, go ahead. We're done, I guess.
This whole
No,
time,
I mean it's hard. It's hard because there's a lot to the list. We
Yeah.
can have a lot of different films and stuff like that. But yeah. So thank you guys for joining us here at Get to the Podcast. That's Get to the Podcast with the number 2. My name is Diego D'Souza.
I'm Nick Gambino.
and I'm Neil Carson.
You know why I did that, Neil? It's
I know.
'cause I
see
know you.
what-
I know.
dude,
I saw
I
you
have
flipping
like
your
so
phone.
many things I
saw
want to
it.
say right now.
I saw. Yeah. It's-
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.